Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Dr. Wade. This show was created for and inspired by the thousands of patients I've served, so it's time for me to speak up and speak out on their behalf. With a wide range of experts, we bring you weekly insights, diving deep into topics of controversy to bust through the sugar coating that keeps you and your family stuck in the mainstream. Hey, everybody. I am here with Nicole Bernander. She is a fantastic mom and participant in, let's just leave it at that. Why don't you tell us who you are and why you're here, and then it'll kind of uncover like how I met and how we met each other and where that kind of goes. But just tell us what you're here for and what you're about.
Okay, sure. So, like Dr. Wade said, my name is Jamie Bernander. I am the mother of 3 young children, ages 2, 3, and 4. And I got involved with nonprofit Wisconsin United for Freedom this year because I started witnessing our state government, our federal government, start to infringe upon my right as a parent to decide appropriate health care for my children, particularly regarding vaccinations and whether or not I choose to do that. And so I felt the call to use my voice to protect the right to informed consent, to protect the choice to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, and not be holding my children's education hostage. So yeah, that's why I'm here. Got involved for my kids because I want to maintain control over their health and over their healthcare decisions.
I love it. And I love what you said about informed consent. That is a really sweet spot for me. It's a touchy phrase when it comes to language in healthcare and what patients have the right to. And I can get into a little testimony there in terms of what I see as a provider after 25 years, 26 years now. But the reality is, you as a parent, so what does that mean? First of all, you said this really sensitive word called vaccination. And before people tune out and stop listening to a message, we realize that the discussion around that, around long historical behavior patterns that have just been quote unquote accepted, that anything outside of you just buying in is anti. Well, let's clean the slate right off the gate. It is not anti. Okay, we're not anti anything. I'm about this parents' intelligence and choice making for their family, what's right for them. I'm gonna be just a little bit selfish here too, Jamie, and state that they're trying to take my right equally away. And I'm not an uneducated consumer.
Right.
Nor are you. So there's no implication there, nor are many parents. So when we talk about that, what does that mean? And what do you hear as a parent? How are you treated? How did this start to come about?
Yeah, it's such a charged word, such a charged topic. To be honest with you, my oldest he'll be 5 in December. And for the first 4.5 years, only until recently, really, my husband and I were by and large private about this topic. We saw the way that people instantly would put you in the anti-camp if you had any questions regarding the childhood schedule. And so we just kept to ourselves. We're like, we're going to do our own thing. You can do your own thing. And that's really all I want to be able to do. You do you and we will do us. Something happened in the last year where it's just become even more charged than it already was. But yeah, as you said, me as an individual and Wisconsin United for Freedom, we stand for choice. We don't want to take away any parent's right to vaccinate their children if that's what they choose. And we also want to protect our right to refuse that medical procedure should we choose. So we do not stand in an anti-camp. You're not anti-vaccine. We are, like you said, pro-parental choice, pro-informed consent or refusal. Vaccination is a medical procedure. All medical procedures have risk. Vaccination itself has documented risk, through our vaccine adverse events reporting system. So where there is risk, there must be choice. That's our big mantra. So we just stand for choice. I stand for choice. I want my children to be able to have the choice when they have children. This is just a trickle down thing.
So thank you, by the way. I love how eloquently you stated that. As a parent, you'd mentioned staying quiet. We just stay to ourselves. I completely agree. I'm a private person in that way. I think the personal choices that we make are our choices. As a provider, I've never told a patient not to. I've simply educated a patient as to where they can find information to balance the scale of knowledge instead of a one-size-fits-all, and here's the only knowledge you're going to get, which is the health department.
Right.
And again, anybody who bucks that system is considered, it's like, stop. We need to have a conversation beyond that automatic judgment. But we know it gets like religion and politics. We're not here to change people's minds. We're here to stand up for our own personal right. That's it. That's period.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. There is no one-size-fits-all thing in any other facet of life, So why in this vaccination realm are we pushing this one-size-fits-all agenda as if every child is genetically equipped the exact same way? They are not, So
would you mind elaborating on your point of view as a parent when you say is not equipped genetically? So what makes you even question the possibility as a parent? Why are you asking the question in the first place when the mainstream doesn't want you asking any questions?
Well, for me, when I first started researching this, I learned, like I mentioned earlier, about the vaccine adverse events reporting system. I saw that injury occurs. It's real. It's happening. I talked to fellow parents who have experienced vaccine injury and death. For my husband and I, those things caused us pause. They're like, you know what? That's a risk. That's a scary risk. And we don't know why some children are being vaccine injured and why some are not. We haven't taken the time to figure that out. And so that's really scary as a parent. Like you're putting your child out there, you're trusting their lives with your healthcare provider, and you're hoping for a good outcome. And that doesn't always happen. So for me, the risks outweighed the benefits of going down that path, because there is a risk. That's what it is. I'm scared to go down that path because I've heard stories of regression. I've heard stories of death. I've spoken face to face with parents who have experienced these things, and it's frightening. And the fact that this is just shoved under a rug in our society, like vaccine injury, does not happen. And we gaslight these parents who've witnessed these reactions in their children. It's very unsettling. And we don't have the best health outcomes in our nation's children right now. So the mainstream medical establishment that is kind of, forcing this down our throats. We have 54% of children under 18 right now have at least one chronic illness. That doesn't sit well with me. Our system is not perfect. There is risk. Vaccination comes with risk. It's scary either way as a parent, and each parent should have the opportunity and the right to weigh out the risks and the benefits for their individual family. Nothing is one size fits all. That's all there is to it.
Right. What a great perspective, by the way. And again, the best part about this is just the realness of it, the authenticity, the transparency that Jamie's sharing with us. So when you say risks, and tell me about reporting, what do you know as a parent about the VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Reaction Reporting System? Tell me about what you know about that and what you learned as you discovered. It's like, well, if there are greater risks, then why aren't there blah, blah, blah?
So what I know about VAERS...
That's better, by the way.
It is. Oh, is that better? Okay. Yeah. It is a voluntary reporting system put out by the federal government. And we have learned the Department of Health and Human Services funded a 3-year review by Harvard Medical School that found that fewer than 1% of vaccine adverse events are even reported to VAERS. So we know that vaccine injury is happening. We have these documented stats, and it's probably times 100 of what is, actually out there. Mm-hmm. That's huge. That's frightening. And I have, just in 2018 alone, there were 58,381 reports to our vaccine adverse events reporting system, which included 412 deaths, 1,237 related permanent disabilities, and 4,217 related hospitalizations. Those are huge numbers. And if that's potentially times 100, because only 1% or fewer than 1% of vaccine adverse events are even reported, that's astronomical, and that was a study funded by our government, by Harvard Medical School. So not to be taken lightly, that information.
When you say that, I find it still fascinating. Why? Like, we participated in a discussion in a panel not too long ago, 2 weeks ago, right? 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
At the Capitol, while another group was pitching their absolute necessity of why this should be forced down, this should be mandated. Well, think about what mandate means, right? They're going to force it on the society and pass this legislation, not allow people to choose. Well, what happens is you can present this information and the other side says, so what? Doesn't matter, because guess what? It didn't change their mind. It doesn't change what they're doing. It just pushes it. It seems to have made them push harder. Is that kind of what you're getting? I mean, are they just ignoring that data?
It does appear that way. I think that they're fearing a loss of control in that arena over, the parents more and more parents are starting to question things, and more parents are starting to not just take what their medical doctor says as, that's it. That's the rule. That's the law of God. And so, I think there's definitely pushback to that. Yeah, it does seem like they don't listen to our side and the facts as much as you would think. So
well, and thank you, by the way. And I've heard as much as, and I work alongside with professionals in all kinds of professions. So, I refer to medical doctors and vice versa. And I have pediatricians and whatnot, and orthopods, neurologists that I refer to and work with, and relationship-wise, think they're fantastic healthcare providers. So this is really about the patient. It has nothing to do with, one right, one wrong, one size fits all. And I think, again, my vision, my hallucination is we can have a conversation beyond that, so we can, make sense of it and really understand the big picture. You've been really active on a county level as of late, which is actually on a state level, but you've been really active and participatory with your cohorts along the lines of what's going on in county legislative hearings and or decision making. So can you fill us in on what's been going on there and what your experience has been? Sure.
So in the state legislature right now, we have a bill that was proposed in May called Assembly Bill 248/Senate Bill 262 to remove the personal conviction waiver for vaccination. And that has been sitting in committee for a few months. And just in the last couple of months, at the county level, we've seen county boards, starting in the Board of Health and then pushing through to the full county board. They have been proposing a resolution to support the state legislature and encourage it to remove this personal conviction waiver for vaccination. So now, so we've seen, I don't know the exact number. There's 72 counties in Wisconsin, and I feel like over a third of them so far have proposed this resolution, or we're waiting to see what the results are of that. So we've been attending these meetings, giving short speeches, giving them literature, asking them to please think of choice, please think of freedom, parental freedom. Don't send this on. Some have not. But so we're just seeing this coming from all sides right now, state level, county level. They're trying to take away this personal exemption, and we're standing in solidarity to preserve parental choice, because that is so scary to think about somebody else having control over what I put into my child's body. Is there anything more frightening than that, really?
I feel it. And I can see it in your face. That was very heartfelt. I have 31 nieces and nephews.
Wow.
I'm a godparent 8 times. I'm done saying yes to godparenting. I love
8 times. Wow.
Well, and I'm from a big family, of course. And so where I fall, and I've just been a student of the game too. I'm here observing and watching and just, again, my role is not to push any belief on a patient, but support what they want to do and then give them information. I mean, and I'll just say this, and I've said it a number of times, it won't stop. As a chiropractor, I'm the last primary healthcare provider that is drug-free and not influenced by big pharma, period. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what does that mean? That means as a patient that everywhere else you go within the system of healthcare, primary care portal of entry, accessing care without a referral, you are going to get a pharmaceutical-derived directive.
Exactly.
And I cannot speak for all chiropractors. I will not. In fact, I was asked on that this morning, and I said, no, I can't speak for the majority of chiropractors. I can speak for the philosophy of chiropractic, how chiropractic was founded, what it represents for patients. Okay. And that is, we are healthcare advocates that allow a patient choice, freedom, and natural healthcare, which isn't welcome in big pharma. No. It's not welcome in that model.
It's not profitable.
You said it, not me. So what families seek, and this is, I want to flip something to the other side of this, because here's an argument that I've heard, I'm guessing if you have too, because when you choose, and if you're at all vocal as a mom, wife, parent, spouse, that you make this choice, now what do other families say about your choice and how that affects their kids? And what have you heard?
So, of course, I've heard, what about the immunocompromised, right? Let's just nip it right in the bud.
Yep.
And I do have compassion for that viewpoint. I understand where they are coming from as a fellow parent.
Tell me what that means in lay terms.
Bottom line is, I am responsible for my own children, right? They are my everything. And I'm going to make the choices that I feel best suit my children. And I'm not going to vaccinate them to protect somebody else, potentially, as they say, not knowing whether or not my child would be injured by a vaccine, right? So I'm not going to be coerced into participating in a medical procedure in the hopes that somebody else wouldn't. First of all, unvaccinated kids don't just carry measles. We're not just, my children aren't just like full of measles. So there's that. But number two,
can I iterate something right in there just before you go on? Hold that thought.
Okay.
So what Jamie's saying, and I'll just say it in another form, is her children are not walking petri dishes, and they are not carriers, and they are not putting anyone else at risk. In fact, when you start to look at vaccination/immunization, the two are not the same. Vaccination does not mean immunization. It's verifiable. Science knows that. There's artificial and there's acquired immunity. And we know the theory of vaccination is quite bright and brilliant to consider, but the adjuvants and the toxicity is the real question about making them safe. So I'm just stating that the argument from another side, another perspective, is that, well, now if you make that choice, Mrs. Bernander, that's why I stated it that way, then now you're putting my child at risk.
And also, I'm sorry, continue.
No. This is just, that's what I want you to touch base on, if you will, and if you're okay doing that, as to like how that story unfolds. And then all of a sudden there's this blame, shame, guilt thing that is trying to be impressed upon you that you're not doing the societal right thing.
Right. That is the biggest argument. There is research that shows that if you're immunocompromised, the common cold can be deadly, right? So It's dangerous out there. My unvaccinated children are going to pose equal risk to you leaving your house and encountering someone at the grocery store who has, a cold. So, and also some of these vaccines are live attenuated vaccines that shed for up to 6 weeks. So immunocompromised people are often advised to not be around recently vaccinated people so that they don't acquire said illness, So I'd say, if anything, recently vaccinated people should be staying at home rather than my unvaccinated children from school for that 6-week period, so we can be sure that they are not spreading the measles that they were vaccinated against, as has happened in Disney World in 2015, or Disneyland, in California. Case, 2015. 38% of the reported cases from Disneyland were from a vaccine strain of measles. That's huge. 38%.
And they can verify that, can't they?
They can. That's you can look that up right now. 38% of those, it was, 160 or 170 cases came from a vaccine strain. It wasn't wild measles. That's something to fear.
So again, we're talking about what kind of information the public actually gets. They're not going to have the health department talk out of both sides of their mouth saying you need, and we're going to force this. And yet, by the way, there's risks and we're not responsible for them. They're going to tell you one half. They're going to tell you need to do this. There's no question. Just do it. And then they're not going to share with you the risks on the other hands. A confused mind always says no. An unconfused mind who is coerced doesn't get a chance, and therefore that's why parents aren't asked. They're just, it's time for this, boom. And unless there's any opposition or any stance and knowledge or stand-up ability, any confidence in something outside of that role, I just find it absolutely fascinating. That's probably why you see this expression on my face going, this is real stuff. It's amazing. It's like, why are we even having a discussion it's crazy. So,
and patients are being dropped from clinics and doctors now for choosing to take their own path. It's just mind boggling. Some of us don't even feel comfortable going to these well child checkups anymore to our pediatricians because we feel like we're going to be coerced into something we don't want to do. Informed consent is not regularly practiced in these settings, unfortunately. So
thank you, by the way. You're doing great. One thing that is really, like I said, near and dear to my heart is informed consent. 3 years ago, I was involved in some legislation that actually we as chiropractic, not just the Chiropractic Association, but as chiropractors in the state, there was this bill that snuck up behind us, and it was actually started along the lines, I'll just simplify, with medicine. And then they looked out for themselves and got themselves free from this informed consent law. And then they left nurses, podiatrists, optometrists, and nurses behind. And so this is crazy. So while we were all sleeping in our beds, chiropractors and all these other practitioners in medicine, someone looked for themselves, got themselves off this informed consent hook, left everyone else for dead. And we would, if we weren't paying attention, our executive director was picked up on it and realized what this new law meant. And if we didn't do something about it, we were going to be inclusively left in it. And what that really said was the patient has the right to dig stuff up on the internet. And it's my job to know exactly what they have the potential to dig up and cover my butt on all of them in a nutshell. Well, guess what? I can't be responsible for everything that patient read about this, that, or the other thing. How am I going to be responsible for that?
Right.
So what informed this legislation ended up doing is that I had to testify at the Senate for this, and it was and we testified together. And the reality is, informed consent is a service to the patient. Informed consent is something we want for a patient. Informed consent is something that a patient has the right for, which means they are educated and made aware of the risks as well as the benefits. But yet, what I'm hearing in all these cases is that there is no or very, very, very limited informed consent being given to a parent. In fact, there is none given from every parent I've talked to unless the parent asks questions, and then they are being poo-pooed and judged and scorned upon for even asking them, like, are you kidding me? This is technology based. And you're saying as a parent, correct me if I'm wrong, just slow down a bit. There's more information that I need before I make this choice. And it's based on knowledge, not ignorance. And that's where I have a great deal of respect for you as a parent. Just know that.
Thank you.
I've not said that to you, but my heart goes out going, thank God for being a thinker. Thank God for asking questions. And so that's what I want to implore in patients is do not, as a clinician, do not be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask them. Demand that you get an answer. It is your right. And just like a steroid injection, this week, actually 2 days ago, a patient came in tears. Same concept. This is the same conversation we're having about personal freedom, not vaccines. Patient gets an injection into their shoulder for pain. It's a steroid. There's no informed consent. There's no education that it's going to dry out or change what's called the imbibition of the joint to replenish itself with fluid, the ability to reabsorb fluid back into the joint, that there are side effects for it, that they do damage it, and lastly, that there can be emotional responses. So this patient came in with tears and crying as a result of an injection that was just for the shoulder. So and she's crazy. She's led to believe she's crazy by the physician. And it didn't get reported because it didn't.
Right.
And she's left to feel like she's the weirdo and that it's not a common response, so it's not there. Now, my point is the patient is already struggling. And the other thing is there's a right. Why am I, as a chiropractor, the one that has to inform consent after the fact for something that was supposed to be done by a physician, but they have too much power to not? So
right.
Patients have rights. That's what this is about.
Exactly. And you can change providers if you don't feel like your rights are being respected. That's been a big takeaway for me in this journey of these last 5 years. We've had to change providers in my household, and for that very reason, for not receiving that informed consent. That's what we need to be advocating for. Parental choice and true informed consent. It's just, that's sad that there are all of these stories coming up where patients don't even feel comfortable asking those questions because for fear of being bullied or shamed. That's a common.
Wait. You just said something that is really not acceptable anywhere else in the world, but it is acceptable to bully in this realm.
Exactly. Absolutely unbelievable. But it is. I even had a personal bullying experience when I was pregnant with my daughter. With my physician at the time, I refused the DTaP injection during pregnancy due to lack of proper safety testing. And she told me in her office that my baby and I might die if I did not, consent to that procedure. She was very flabbergasted that I was not following the rigmarole. So I've experienced it. I know that most of the mothers and fathers fighting alongside me in this movement have experienced some form of that. It's causing a cascade of mistrust of pharmaceutical industry, mistrust of mainstream medicine. It's unfortunate because there is a time and a place and a need for that type of medicine, but now we're distrustful. We're afraid to ask questions because we've been given so much pushback, and our feelings and our questions aren't being answered, and informed consent isn't happening by and large. So it's a sad state of affairs.
What do you think? Give me like 3 steps for a parent that is unsure and doesn't know, because the realities are you have family too. Family, like parents and siblings that you can feel isolated. You can feel, made to be crazy. And then all of a sudden you're judged and someone's trying to do the right thing, but they're so stuck in the dogma that they're creating waves that perpetuates this fear that really just isn't true, isn't factual, but yet is the loudest message out there and by the most powerful organizations in the world.
My biggest piece of advice is just as you said, there are some people you just can't speak with about this issue. You know, you'll know them right when it gets brought up, and don't go there with them. You're not going to change a religious belief system, which vaccination is. But also, you know, be courageous. You know, these are your children that we're talking about. These are our children. They are our most precious commodity, and we need to be standing up for them. Whether or not you are wholeheartedly a supporter of vaccines or you're highly skeptical or anywhere in between, we all need to stand together and be supportive of parental rights, no matter where you fall in the line. And so the first few years, like I said, I was very quiet and heard all of the propaganda surrounding this. And this year I've just really felt called to stand alongside my brothers and sisters who just want to maintain our rights as parents. And I would encourage any parent who is in the same camp or wondering about things, wanting to know more about either side of the issue, do some independent research. There are plenty of organizations in every state that advocate for parent rights and health freedom. Look those up, ask questions, ask your doctor for vaccine inserts when you go to these appointments. You know, do research before you go into it and be confident with whatever decision that you make. These are your children, should be your choice. And you need to go into this fully knowing both sides of it. So that's my advice.
I think it's great advice. That's fantastic. Just literally, because there's no judgment either way. What you decide is right for you, but this is the catchphrase. What you decide. What we're really stating is you might completely disagree with anything outside, you know, whatever that we've said about vaccines. Fine. That's okay. You have that right. This this isn't to change your mind. This is to support anything that you choose for your health should be your choice.
Yes.
And when you give up that right and abdicate it to the system, I'm going to say good luck, because this is, frankly speaking, it is my show. And I will say good luck trying to actually experience health, because the system isn't designed for health.
It is not. No.
So asking questions, gathering information, finding support. Mm-hmm. I will have upcoming episodes specifically on how choosing your doctor is less than the norm, which is an absolute shame.
It is.
And that you receive your doc by default, and therefore you just take that advice. Now, I could get 50 chiropractors in a room, 100. We're going to agree on many things, and we're going to disagree on a number of things. And guess what? I'm not the right fit for everyone, and that's cool. And guess what? I'm the perfect fit for some. So my point is this. You have somebody who's going to philosophically share your viewpoint. Your doctor should share your viewpoint, support you, and help guide. I'm there being asked to help a patient, not control everything. So
exactly.
Doc, can you help me? I don't know. Let's see if I can help you. All right. Here's what I think. Does that sound fair? Great. Let's go to work. And, you know, if it doesn't, hey, there's other choices. You can go here. You can do this. I get it. It's cool. There's choices.
There's choices. There are.
One way.
Absolutely. And wherever you fall in that line, that's okay. As long as it was your choice. You know, a lot of my friends have chosen to vaccinate to varying degrees, and they are supportive of the fact that we have chosen a different path. I am supportive of the fact that, you know, they have gone down that path, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be. We should just be respecting one another's choices, because it is important to maintain our rights as parents.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I would say, clinically speaking, just in sharing this too, Jamie, by the way, it is so fun working for a patient that has questions. You know what it tells me?
Awesome.
Besides being annoying, it's not annoying. It's not annoying. It tells me you're freaking engaged. You're conscious.
Right.
A conscious patient? Are you kidding me? I'm here as a guide. Okay. And my practice is filled with all kinds of variation. I had a video up on the counter from a documentary, and a patient came in. This is a crazy story, by the way. And it's actually it's a blessing, because this patient had been a patient of mine for 5 or 6 years. She finally sees this documentary. Her son comes in once in a while because parents were divorced. So he's visiting, and all of a sudden he sees it. He's with her. He snaps a shot of it on her phone, shares it with mom. Mom had been walking by that video for years, never saw it. Never heard a peep from me about what my viewpoints are. Why? Because she never asked, and I don't data dump. I don't have an agenda. I'm a servant. Okay. Mm-hmm. So she comes back with an email and says, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Hansen, thanks so much for your help, but I need to find a new chiropractor because you have this viewpoint about vaccines." And I'm like, wow. Did I ever project that on you? No. Did I ever say you shouldn't, or you're bad, or whatever it is? No. But she saw a video and automatically I was categorized. And so what do you think I said? Was I crying, or was I just thankful?
Thankful?
I was simply just accepting this and going, wow. And I was thankful for that patient, and I'm thankful for her finding what is actually going to suit her better, even though she never heard one peep out of me in 5.5, 6 years as to what my viewpoints are, because I don't project them on to a patient. Anyway, the point is,
thank you for that.
God bless that patient. She's, and it's okay. I mean, but that's the point about find someone that really resonates with what you want to do and is supportive of you and your family and your goals. And anyway, exactly. So I love what you're doing. I appreciate you individually as to your role, how you're going about it, being knowledgeable. I know you're not, as a parent, there's no ignorance here. Like, oh, she just doesn't know. No, she knows. And she's dug, and she's been forced to dig to verify statistics and knowledge. And she's an educated mom. So absolutely, if you have questions, contact Jamie Bernander and the WUFF, the Wisconsin United for Freedom. So I'll have a link involved in this as well. Jamie, if you want to post something up, this is going to be on my page right now, and then it'll end up on Frankly Speaking. But that said, anything you want to add to this is in terms of links, like you'd stated, where parents can find information, we'd love you to do that. Okay. And please keep the questions coming in the comments, but be conscious of others, be respectful, as to understanding that there's more sides to a story than just your own opinion. And so that's what I love about this too, is I'm getting educated by a mom who shares with, but I have to accept the fact that I don't know everything. And I'm here as a student of the game going, how can I better communicate with my peeps? How can I learn from these parents who are stepping out and getting uncomfortable for their families? So anyway, here's to personal freedom. Here's to health freedoms.
Here's to health freedom.
Is there anything else you want to add? Parting words.
Parting words, if anybody does have any questions or wants to get involved, look up Wisconsin United for Freedom. We have a website. We have a Facebook community, both dedicated to action and one dedicated to education. So nice. Yes, you can connect with us there. You can connect with me there. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You betcha. You betcha. Thanks so much for being here, Jamie. And we will see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you much for listening to this week's episode. I look forward to any feedback and or questions you might have. Direct them to our Facebook page, Frankly Speaking, Dr. Wade at Facebook. Okay, my fellow health warriors, it's time to head over to iTunes, franklyspeakingdrwade.com. There you can rate, review, and subscribe, as well as share, so more of our brothers and sisters can grow to realize their voice. Speaking up means you matter. So, get on it. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views expressed are not medical advice and are not meant to replace the medical advice of your doctor. This podcast, including Dr. Wade Annenson and his guests, disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects you may experience from the specific use of information contained herein. opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse and accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about the guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for such services or product. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.